The rain hadn't stopped in hours. It pounded against the cracked windows of the precinct, making the fluorescent lights flicker in sync with the storm outside. Detective Marcus Hill sat back in his chair, rubbing his temples, staring at the confession slip that had just been slid across his desk. "Read it again," his partner, Detective Laura Quinn, said quietly, her eyes fixed on the trembling paper. Marcus did, word by word, each line carved deeper into his mind. "I didn't run because I knew no one would stop me. They underestimated me, and that was their mistake." Hill looked up. "He's admitting it," he whispered. "Every crime. All of them. And he never ran." Laura nodded. "Exactly. And he's not even hiding fear. He sounds calm." The man in question was Darren Kincaid, a figure so overlooked that most believed he was harmless. Small, quiet, the kind of person who faded into the background at every office, meeting, and neighborhood watch. But underestimating him had been the gravest mistake anyone had made. 2 weeks earlier, Kincaid had been just another face in the city, a janitor at the sprawling corporate tower of Preston & Co. He mopped floors in silence, smiled when necessary, and spoke only when spoken to. No one noticed when he stayed late or lingered near the executive offices, except for one man, Victor Preston, the company's CEO. Arrogant, imposing, a man who thrived on fear and control. Preston had always mocked Darren, belittling him during meetings, throwing paper towels at him when he didn't reach the sink fast enough. "You're invisible, Darren. Maybe that's all you're good for," Preston had said once, laughing with the board. But invisibility was Kincaid's weapon. What no one realized was that he had been watching years of subtle observations, tiny patterns, security lapses, and weaknesses. And when Preston crossed the line, humiliating him in front of the entire staff, something inside Darren snapped. Detective Quinn had pieced together the timeline. It started with the theft of internal documents, seemingly minor, but the contents exposed multiple illegal deals Preston had orchestrated under the company's name. Then came the emails, the subtle sabotage of contracts, all small, almost imperceptible, until one night, Preston's private life became the target. A car accident was staged, a financial ruin disguised as bad luck. By the time anyone noticed, Darren had already vanished into plain sight. Hill couldn't wrap his head around it. "He never ran, Laura. He just stayed right under our noses." Quinn sighed. "That's the part that chills me. He didn't hide because he didn't need to. He knew we wouldn't see it coming, and we didn't." The confession came during an interrogation, unlike any Hill had conducted. Darren sat across the table, hands folded, calm, almost serene. The room was cold, the air heavy with tension. Detective Hill leaned in. "Why, Darren? You had every reason to flee, every reason to disappear." Darren's lips curved into a slight, unsettling smile. "Run," he said softly. "You misunderstand me. Running is for those who are afraid, and I wasn't afraid. Not of him, not of anyone. They thought I was nothing, invisible, but I was. Listening, watching, waiting. That's all you need to succeed where others fail." Quinn exchanged a glance with Hill. Neither said a word. "You see," Darren continued, "Victor never respected me. Everyone laughed at my mistakes, every little stumble I made. But when you're underestimated, when the powerful look down at you and assume they're untouchable, that's when you have the advantage. I didn't run because I knew I was already in control. They just didn't know it yet." The detectives were silent, not from shock alone, but because the realization was sinking in. Darren Kincaid, the janitor, the underdog, the man everyone dismissed, had orchestrated a downfall of one of the city's most powerful figures without ever leaving his own small apartment. Hill broke the silence first. "You're telling us you did all of this, and you never left your job?" Darren nodded. "Every move, every piece. They trusted their arrogance more than their eyes. I only had to wait until it all came to light." Quinn finally spoke. You didn't even fear being caught." Darren leaned back. "Fear is for the weak, and weakness, well, everyone else had it in spades." The room was still. Outside, the rain continued its relentless assault, but inside, time seemed to freeze. Both detectives understood that they were witnessing a different breed of criminal, not one fueled by desperation or impulse, but one fueled by patient precision and the raw desire for justice was meticulous and perfectly executed. Later, in the precinct's break room, Hill whispered to Quinn, "He's dangerous. But part of me thinks, part of me respects it. He turned every insult, every humiliation into this." Quinn didn't answer. She stared at the ceiling, mind racing. The case had changed everything she thought she knew about crime, power, and the underestimated people lurking behind society's curtain. Darren's confession had left them shaken. Yes, but more than that. It had left them questioning the very nature of justice. Who had the right to decide who was strong or weak? And what happens when the weak realize they are stronger than everyone else thought? As the detectives prepared to file their report, Hill noticed a note at the bottom of Darren's confession slip, written in the same meticulous hand as the rest. "This is only the beginning. They think they know me. They do not. Watch closely. Part 2 is already in motion." Hill read it aloud, voice barely above a whisper. Part 2. Quinn swallowed hard. "It seems our story isn't finished. Not even close." The storm outside intensified, lightning flashing across the city skyline. In that moment, both detectives understood something chilling. The man who had been underestimated, mocked, and dismissed had not only claimed his revenge, he had already planned the next chapter, and nobody, not even law enforcement, would see it coming. The screen fades to black. The city was quiet the morning after Darren Kincaid's confession, but the calm was deceptive. Detective Marcus Hill couldn't shake the feeling that the janitor was already steps ahead. He sat in the precinct, staring at the map of Preston & Co.'s network sprawled across the wall, pins marking every known connection. Somewhere in that web, Darren was moving again. Detective Laura Quinn walked in, carrying a thick stack of reports. "There's been activity," she said, dropping the papers on the desk. "Financial irregularities, unusual communications, all pointing back to Preston's former allies. Someone's being manipulated again, but this time, it's bigger. He's using them like pieces on a board." Hill rubbed his face. He didn't just take down Preston. He's rewriting the whole system of power, and we're watching too late. Across town, Darren sat in his modest apartment, sunlight streaming through dusty blinds. His hands hovered over a keyboard, poised to execute the next part of his plan. Calm, focused. Every email sent, every transaction manipulated, every misstep of his targets orchestrated perfectly. He wasn't doing it for money. He was doing it to expose the arrogance of those who believed themselves untouchable. He paused, staring at a list of names. Each one had underestimated someone, him, or someone weaker than them. Each one would pay for it in subtle, precise ways. Darren whispered under his breath, "They think they're safe. They never learn." Meanwhile, Hill and Quinn dug deeper. They traced small traces of activity, each leading to dead ends. Almost as if Darren anticipated every step of their investigation. Hill muttered, "He's always one move ahead. He's teaching us a lesson, whether we like it or not." Quinn nodded, a chill running down her spine. "And the lesson is terrifying." Then the first phone call came, a tip from an anonymous source, directing them to a warehouse on the outskirts of the city. When Hill and Quinn arrived, the place was empty except for a single briefcase, sitting under a flickering light. Inside, they found documents, videos, and encrypted drives. Every file exposed corruption, manipulation, and crimes from powerful figures they had never suspected. Every piece carefully organized, every name accounted for. Hill whispered, "He's exposing everything, but he's still invisible." And that's when the note fell out of the briefcase, written in the same meticulous handwriting as before. "You see the pieces, but you don't see me. I am everywhere and yet nowhere." Part 3 begins tonight. Quinn's hand shook slightly as she read it aloud. "He's not done. He's escalating." Hill looked at her, grim, and "We're running out of time." The detectives left the warehouse, knowing Darren wasn't hiding in a dark alley or behind a locked door. He was in plain sight, blending into the background, unnoticed, underestimated, the perfect predator. And somewhere, in a quiet corner of the city, Darren was already planning the next chapter of his silent revolution. As night fell, the city lights flickered against the storm clouds, mirroring the tension building in every corner of law enforcement. One thing was clear. Darren Kincaid wasn't just a criminal mastermind, he was a mirror, showing society exactly what happens when power is abused and underestimated individuals take control. The screen fades to black.